The world of global trade was shaken on February 2, 2025, as President Donald Trump announced new tariffs on imports from three major trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China. These tariffs, essentially taxes on imported goods, sent shockwaves through the global economy and raised concerns about a potential trade war. Trump's decision marked a significant escalation in his administration's protectionist trade policies, which had already seen tariffs imposed on goods from various countries, including close allies. This latest move signaled a willingness to target even the United States' closest neighbors in the pursuit of what Trump deemed fair trade practices. The tariffs, which varied in percentage depending on the country and goods in question, were aimed at addressing several key concerns of the Trump administration: trade deficits, illegal immigration, and the flow of illegal drugs, particularly fentanyl, into the United States. Tariffs, in their simplest form, are taxes imposed on goods imported from another country. These taxes can vary widely depending on the type of goods being imported and the country of origin. The primary purpose of tariffs is to regulate international trade by making imported goods more expensive, thereby encouraging consumers to purchase domestically produced items. This can help protect local industries from foreign competition, ensuring that local businesses can thrive and maintain employment levels. They are designed to make imported goods more expensive, which can lead to higher prices for consumers. This price increase can sometimes be significant, affecting the overall cost of living. However, the intention behind this is to make domestic products more competitive in the market, thereby making domestically produced goods more appealing to consumers. When consumers choose local products over imported ones, it can boost the local economy, create jobs, and foster innovation within domestic industries. This cycle of local consumption and production can lead to a more self-sufficient economy. Governments may impose tariffs for a variety of reasons, including protecting domestic industries from foreign competition, raising revenue, and sometimes even as a political tool. For instance, tariffs can be used to exert pressure on other countries to change their trade policies or to address trade imbalances, or influencing the trade policies of other countries. Trade negotiations often involve discussions about tariffs, as countries seek to protect their own economic interests while fostering international trade relationships. In the case of the tariffs announced by President Trump, the stated goals were multifaceted. These tariffs were part of a broader strategy to address various economic and political issues facing the United States. Trump argued that these tariffs were necessary to address the United States' significant trade deficits with Canada, Mexico, and China. Trade deficits occur when a country imports more goods than it exports, leading to an imbalance that can affect the national economy. By making goods from these countries more expensive, the Trump administration aimed to reduce imports and encourage American consumers to buy American-made products. This Buy American approach was intended to stimulate domestic manufacturing and job creation. Beyond trade imbalances, the tariffs were also framed as a tool to address illegal immigration and drug trafficking. The administration linked economic measures to broader security concerns, suggesting that economic pressure could lead to better cooperation from neighboring countries on these issues. Trump specifically linked the tariffs on Mexico and Canada to their alleged failure to stem the flow of illegal immigrants and drugs across the U.S. border. This approach was controversial, as it combined economic policy with immigration and law enforcement issues. The tariffs on China, meanwhile, were partly attributed to concerns over the flow of fentanyl and its precursor chemicals from China into the United States. Fentanyl is a powerful synthetic opioid that has contributed to the opioid crisis in the U.S., and the administration sought to use tariffs as a means to pressure China into taking action against the production and export of these substances. The decision to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico, two of the United States' closest trading partners and allies, was met with surprise and condemnation from both countries. This move was seen as a significant shift in the U.S.'s approach to international trade, especially with nations that share such deep economic and cultural ties. The tariffs were part of a broader strategy by the Trump administration to renegotiate trade deals that were perceived as unfavorable to American interests. Canada and Mexico are integral parts of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, a trilateral trade bloc that has facilitated billions of dollars in trade and investment between the three countries. NAFTA has been a cornerstone of North American economic policy since its inception in 1994, promoting the free flow of goods, services, and capital across borders. The agreement has led to the creation of complex supply chains that span the continent, making the economies of the US, Canada, and Mexico deeply interconnected. The Trump administration imposed a 25% tariff on a wide range of goods from both Canada and Mexico. These tariffs were justified on the grounds of national security, with the administration arguing that the US needed to protect its domestic industries from foreign competition. The targeted goods included essential materials like steel and aluminum, which are critical to the manufacturing and construction sectors. This broad tariff regime targeted sectors ranging from steel and aluminum to agricultural products and manufactured goods. The impact of these tariffs was felt across various industries, leading to increased costs for manufacturers and consumers alike. Companies that relied on imported materials faced higher expenses, which were often passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. The tariffs were intended to pressure Canada and Mexico into concessions on issues such as dairy imports, automobile manufacturing, and border security. The U.S. administration sought to address trade imbalances and protect American jobs by renegotiating terms that were more favorable to the U.S. However, these demands were met with resistance from both Canada and Mexico, who viewed the tariffs as an unfair tactic. The Canadian and Mexican governments, however, vehemently opposed the tariffs, arguing that they were unjustified and harmful to the economies of all three countries. They pointed out that the tariffs would disrupt the integrated supply chains and lead to job losses on both sides of the border. Public protests and political opposition in both countries underscored the widespread discontent with the U.S.'s unilateral actions. Both countries vowed to retaliate with tariffs of their own on U.S. goods, setting the stage for a potential trade war within North America. This tit-for-tat escalation threatened to undermine decades of economic cooperation and could have far-reaching consequences for businesses and consumers. The prospect of a trade war raised concerns about economic stability and the future of North American trade relations. Section 4. The Dragon in the Room, China, and the Trade War Escalation. This section delves into the intricate and often contentious relationship between the United States and China, focusing on the trade war that has escalated over the past few years. The tariffs on China marked a significant escalation in the ongoing trade war between the world's two largest economies. This trade war has not only affected the two nations involved, but has also had ripple effects across the global economy, influencing markets, supply chains, and international trade policies. The Trump administration had already imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, aiming to curb what it saw as unfair trade practices and to protect American industries from being undercut by cheaper Chinese imports. In retaliation, China had responded in kind, targeting American exports like soybeans and automobiles. These sectors were chosen strategically to hit key areas of the American economy, particularly those that supported President Trump's political base. The February from electronics to everyday consumer products. These tariffs covered a wide range of Chinese imports, including electronics, machinery, and consumer goods. The increased costs were likely to be passed on to consumers, leading to higher prices and potential shortages of some products. The Trump administration justified the tariffs on China by citing concerns over unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, and forced technology transfers. These issues had long been points of contention between the two countries, with the U.S. accusing China of not playing by the rules of international trade. The tariffs were intended to pressure China into making concessions on these issues, forcing the Chinese government to address American concerns and to level the playing field for U.S. businesses operating in China. Another key objective was to reduce the United States' massive trade deficit with China. The trade deficit had been a long-standing issue, with the U.S. importing far more from China than it exported, leading to a significant imbalance in trade. China, however, denounced the tariffs as protectionist and harmful to the global economy. Chinese officials argued that the tariffs would disrupt global supply chains, increase costs for consumers worldwide, and ultimately harm economic growth. The Chinese government vowed to take all necessary measures to defend its interests, including imposing its own tariffs on American goods and seeking to strengthen trade relationships with other countries to offset the impact of the U.S. tariffs. This back-and-forth escalation signaled a protracted and potentially damaging trade war between the two economic superpowers. As both sides dug in their heels, the prospect of a quick resolution seemed increasingly unlikely, raising concerns about the long-term implications for the global economy. Section 5, the oil exception, a carve-out for Canada's black gold. Amidst the sweeping tariffs on Canadian goods, one notable exception emerged: crude oil. While initially suggesting a 10% tariff on Canadian energy resources, President Trump hinted at the possibility of exempting Canadian oil altogether. This potential exemption highlighted the strategic importance of Canadian oil to the U.S. energy market. The United States is a major importer of Canadian crude oil, which flows south through pipelines and other infrastructure. In 2023, crude oil constituted the largest U.S. import from Canada, totaling nearly $100 billion. Exempting Canadian oil from the tariffs would ensure a continued flow of this vital energy source to the U.S. market. However, the potential exemption was met with mixed reactions. Some argued that it undermined the Trump administration's leverage in trade negotiations with Canada, while others viewed it as a pragmatic move to protect U.S. energy security. The ultimate fate of Canadian oil in the tariff battle remained uncertain.